fought on a lot of issues around jobs, around flooding. We still trying to tackle the flooding issue, trying to get our homes repaired. I mean, these issues are on the forefront of the black communities, and we need a governor that's going to go in and make sure that we're able to get health care, expand Medicaid expansion, right? We make sure our flooding, we don't, every time it rains, our neighborhoods don't flood. We need a leader who see us, who care about us, who want to make sure that we all have an opportunity to thrive. And I believe you, Beto, from the bottom of my heart, that you are that leader. Do you believe it? He's that leader. He's that leader for District B. And so, again, we welcome you here. I encourage you all. I'm glad to see you here. I know we're going to get out and vote, get out and knock on some doors and encourage our neighbors to get out and vote for Beto. But this is critical. This election is critical. This is, really, really critical. So, again, thank you. Thank you, leadership, for bringing Beto here. And let's get this party started. So, thank you. Welcome again.
Good evening, everybody. I'm State Representative Symphonia Thompson, and this is my area, and I'm grateful to represent all of you. Let me tell you what I want to ask you to do. I want to ask you to stop and think a moment. If your vote doesn't mean anything, why are the other side trying to stop you from voting? Here's what we need. We need a governor who's going to be for all the people of Texas. We need a governor who want to make sure that we have a right to vote. We have a right to say in our government what we want and what we don't want. And our vote would mean something. We need a governor who thinks and knows that mental health care is underfunded. We need a governor to know that TYC, the Texas Youth Council, has been a problem for over 20-some years. We need that correcting. And we need a governor that realizes that minimum wages, people can't live off of it. We got to have an increase in minimum wage. And we need a governor who's going to be sensitive to health care, where we got 1.5 million people waiting to go to the doctor but can't, and goes to the emergency room and run up our taxes for health care. And we need a governor who's concerned and who's interested in moving this state forward, who wants to make sure that when our children go to schools, that you don't have to worry of somebody walking in and killing them. We need a governor who's concerned about the everyday working person, me and you, who understands our problems, who knows that it takes more than just $7.85 an hour to live on. And you can't go to the store and buy a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk for that. And we need a governor to know that we need safety, we need criminal laws, we need civil laws that protect all of us. And you know what I know? That person that we want to vote for, name is Beto.
All right, thank you so much for that. All right, everybody. Let's give it up for none other than the Congresswoman, Sheila Jackson Lee.
Yes.
I got two bishops here, so I can get on here, Candace. You know that. I got two bishops. Let me first acknowledge Bishop Livingston for giving us the roadmap today. All we need to say is let the church say amen. That's all we need to say, Bishop. Thank you so very much, and your church and lovely family. And then we've got a bishop to get us going for the benediction. That is Bishop James Dixon is in the house. President of the NAACP. Give him a very big applause, please. Yeah, I'm carrying my power scarf, as you know, my power scarf. I'm so glad to be in Northeast Houston. It is a sight for sore eyes. All of the Civic Club presidents, let me just get you to stand up one time again. We stand at your feet. You are, in fact, our bosses. We go where you want us to go. We fight for what you want us to fight. We darn sure better make it happen. Thank you so very much. That's what I'm looking for. Give them a very big hand. Let me thank the dean. She'll always be the dean. Her words of wisdom, I think when she pronounces it, it is going to happen. And so I am grateful to be in the presence of the dean of the Texas House, and that is none other than Representative Sophronia Thompson. She deserves a standing ovation, or wave your hand, or do something to acknowledge those years of service. What a partner she will be to a new state government. Let me, before I begin, mind my manners and be grateful for the chairperson, the chairman of the State Black Legislative Caucus, the driving moral compass of the House, Texas House, and that is none other than Representative Ron Reynolds. Let's give him a very big hand. Let me as well acknowledge the First Lady of this gym, the person whose name it is known to all of us in Northeast. I'm adopted daughter of Northeast. I know Frank Seals. I know how great Frank Seals was. I know his legacy. I know his victories. I know Frank Seals. We're in Frank Seals' gym, and I am honored to call friend the former trustee of the North Forest Independent School District, Maxine Seals, and the former trustee of the Houston Community College, Maxine Seals. Couldn't be in a better place than Frank Seals' gym. Let me acknowledge SD 13 in Dylan Russell. Dylan, is it Dussel? Russell, yeah, where are you? No, all right. Let me make sure we say it right, because your handwriting on somebody cut off the R. But you are Russell, and you're at the SDC. That's the man who's going to lay the groundwork. Jay Kleberg, Land Commissioner. He's going to win. All our money is stuck in his pockets because he's going to get up there and get that money out. Give him a big hand. To be a county court, I'm going to think positive, and I'm going to say to be Judge Jarrell Rogers. To be County Criminal Court number 14. Thank you, my brother. Let him see him now back there. All right, he's waving his hand. And of course, our Judge Haynes, 183rd District Court. Judge? Soon to be. I don't see them. Where are they? Oh, soon to be. All right. I thought you were pointing in the wrong direction. Give him a big hand. Judge Mike Engelhardt, Judge, running to do even better by us. He is faithful. You see him everywhere, and all the other judges are joining him all over this county. Judge Angela Graves Harrington. All right, there she is. Y'all need to turn back. They're in the back now. Don't miss out seeing him. Judge Leon Shapiro. Leah, count it to the mind, not the heart. All right, Judge Leah Shapiro. Judge Toria Finch. And we're elevating Bishop, well, we're not elevating. We've called his name. We'll call it again. Bishop Livingston, Bishop Dixon. Trustee Dan Norris, Brother Daniel Norris, formerly, and may still be the chairman of the board, formerly the chair of the board, Harris County Board of Trustees. Coach Cam, HD 132, look like a coach now, don't he? Coach Cam is in the house. Beto, I think he can carry a lot of votes to the polls. In fact, I'm going to get him carrying me to the polls. And of course, my dear friend, this story has been ongoing for her, as it has been for the Uvalde parents. She's never gotten a word from the government of the state, never gotten relief. We introduced a bill passed in the House named after her beautiful daughter, Emily Vaughn. Rhonda Hart, who lost her precious child in the Santa Fe shooting, is here. Would you raise your hand? She left her territory. She's come all the way to be here with us in Northeast Houston. She's still on the battlefield fighting. And I'm looking at him. I'm not going to leave him out because he says, I'm still fighting. Provost, you give him a very big hand because he's still former trustee, North Forest Independent School District. Just give me that. You know, it's okay to give honor where honor is due, and everybody in here is due. So give yourselves a very big hand. Would you do that, please? Give yourselves a very big hand. Who is it? Shannon, where are you? Shannon Baldwin, not on the paper, dear. Shannon Baldwin, give her a very big hand. I see the shirt now. Did I miss anybody? Come on, guys. I mean, all of you are applause. County Treasurer. Let's just call 2B, but let's just believe it and achieve it. County Treasurer Wyatt. Give her a very big hand. Got anybody else? I saw somebody standing. Who? Yeah. Dr. Candace Matthew, National Coalition, but also Operation Push. Jesse Jackson would want to make sure that she was known in the House. Always working. Thank you so very much. Let me, I carry papers around, but let me, so that we can get quickly to Beto O'Rourke, but let me try to be just a moment of solemnity, some soberness right now. Some real soberness. We are in the midst of an election with all layers of government, our local governments, county governments, state governments, and then, of course, the United States Congress. We're in a fight for our lives. Let me be very clear. When I'm elected, when you're elected, council member, when you're elected, you represent everyone. You do not skip doors on the basis of their diversity or lack of diversity or even their politics. When Deborah Allen stands up for the environment, she's talking about everybody's. And so I want to make it very clear. I don't pick and choose my constituents. I'm out in Atascocita, I'm out in Humble, I'm happy as I could be. I'm twinkle toes, I'm dancing. Because they're people. And I don't characterize them. And so when we won in 2020 and the highest powers of government said this was the fairest election ever in the United States, when the president's own person on Homeland Security said it was a non-fraudulent election, that everything was above board, then we won. And our charge and our challenge was to represent everybody. Joe Biden, with this Congress, with Democrats, passed $1.7 trillion American Rescue Act to put in the hands of the American people. We did not stop at the door of someone who might not have been in our party. We did not stop at those who believe the Second Amendment allows them to have 440 million guns, more than the American people. We gave to everyone. That's what government should be. And when this place flooded like you've never seen it before, no, we're not perfect. The good news about government is get somebody elected that you can fuss at. They can answer the phone, and maybe you can work it out. This was a place where we lost lives. Sophronia was out there serving hamburgers and chicken and whatever she could find to feed people because they couldn't eat. There was nothing around. I stood by his side, and we were giving out barbecue, and it went on and on and on and on. Nobody asked for anybody's registration card or what they voted for. That's America. That's Northeast Houston. That's this community. So I'm standing up here today with a bunch of papers because that's what lawyers do, and I got documents. But $1.7 trillion came here because people who won said, I represent America. Housing in Northeast still needs money. Jay is clogged up. Our federal money for these citizens sitting here is clogged up, and Houston has not gotten its fair share because somebody is sitting there not answering the phone. They're not answering the phone. Washington hasn't made that decision about money being held from Houston. We can't get through. The phone will not answer. And so as I don't want to do this time hall meeting, but let me finish on this, because there's all these, the CARES Act, the Inflation Reduction, where $3 billion is going to come to this community to work with the mayor on an environment. We did that. You did that with your vote. First time in history, money is going to come that this state can use in communities of color or communities impacted by the environment in a negative way. They didn't say it was going to come over to down the street and around the corner. They said communities of color. It's not illegal, because one boat gets helped, every boat gets helped. But I just want to finish on this. As I bring someone who will answer the phone, who has shown a passion, who has not given up, who has run and said, I just want to serve this state, who I've watched. And so in my hand is the notes I took in the Supreme Court hearing on Tuesday, place of honor as a member of Congress, as Ketanji Brown Jackson explained the 14th Amendment. The good news is that it wouldn't have to be explained to this new governor of the state of Texas. They'd be standing with the Congress or the president, or they'd be standing with Texas to have a Voting Rights Act that would allow you to vote the way you should. As I remember January 6th, and I won't detail it, but your member of Congress was flat on her belly because the Capitol Police said, first run, they said, no, you can't run anywhere, just get flat down on the ground. You could see the teeming mob banging on the door, guns drawn on the other side, on our side. And finally, as we lay there, our phones ringing, people asking, are you okay? And not being able to answer, people in panic. And we heard the shot. Oh God, an innocent person we wished had not died. But not knowing what it was, we just thought it was over now. America. America. This democracy is in your hands. It's not in Washington's hand. Well, let them fix it. It's not in, oh, fix the electoral count. Well, no, it's in the hands of a governor of a state of 29 million plus people. It's in the hands of somebody whose voice can also be heard. When the sound comes out that there's a new governor in Texas, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the London Times, the newspapers in Paris, the newspapers on the continent of Africa, South and Central America will say that the people of America have spoken, because the largest state in the nation has said that we want a nation of democracy. It's all about Beto O'Rourke coming to be the leader of this state. Ladies and gentlemen, you can do it. We can do it. Not Democrats, but Republicans, Democrats, independent, Texans, the families of Uvalde. This Santa Fe mother can do it and elect Beto O'Rourke, the next governor of the state of Texas.
Hey, hey, good to be with you all. Thank you. Let's hear it for Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. I had the good fortune of serving with her for 6 years when I was representing my hometown of El Paso, Texas in the United States Congress. And here's my only fear when it comes to Sheila Jackson Lee. It is that you have grown so accustomed to her greatness that you don't realize how exceptional it is relative to the other members of that institution. I promise you, no one works harder for their constituents. No one pushes this country further in the right direction than Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. And we are so lucky to have her leading this fight right now. Thank you, Congresswoman. I want to thank everybody for being here today. Everybody who made this happen. Too many to number, but Fred Woods first reached out to our team and said, look, with some constructive criticism in mind, Beto, you could do better. at listening to and learning from those that you want to serve and represent. And the best kind of constructive criticism, he came to the table with a solution and with an answer. He said, let us all get around together here. Beto, we'll hear from you for a little bit, and then you hear from us. So today, thanks to Fred Woods and these super neighborhood presidents, we've arrived with 2 microphones. I'll begin the conversation, and then I want to bring as many of you in today. Fred, thank you for getting us here. I want to thank Bishop Livingston and First Lady Livingston for getting us started. Bishop Dixon for organizing so many other faith leaders across this state, not just in Harris County and in Houston, Texas, and to all of these extraordinary elected leaders that I'm so looking forward to working with. The Congressman used a word that is so important to me, and that is partnering. Imagine having a governor who is going to partner with Ms. T, the dean of the state legislature, to make sure that resources come to this community, that policies that are devised in rooms like these become law for each and every single one of us. Listening to and working with Ron Reynolds and every member of his caucus to make sure that we deliver for each and every single one of us, do a better job of living up to the unrealized ideals of this country, that we are all created equal and should be treated equally under the law, right? I love the idea, but I also acknowledge we've never gotten there yet. We have leaders right now who are going to ensure that we do, and I want to be their partner in getting that done. And to mention partners, there are so many super neighborhood presidents here, but I want to single out 2 who I've had the pleasure of knowing over these last 5 years. You heard them introduced earlier, Keith and Huey of Cashmere and Trinity Gardens. When we started this campaign a year ago, Keith and Huey invited me to meet a woman named Miss Scarborough, who doesn't live far from where we are right now. In fact, she lives on Crane Street. And they invited me to spend some time with her because 5 years ago, when more rain fell out of the sky than had ever happened in any part of this continent in all of recorded human history, Miss Scarborough's home flooded, just like your homes flooded as well. And because we don't yet have Jay Clayburgh in office as our land commissioner, and though Sheila Jackson Lee has appropriated billions of dollars to rebuild these communities, 5 years later, Miss Scarborough's home is still not rebuilt, still not fixed. No fault of her own, but those in the highest positions of power and public trust. And as though to add insult to injury, in February of 2021, again, not an act of God, nor by the force of Mother Nature, but those in the highest positions of power who could not keep the power going for those that they were supposed to serve. The heat stopped working, the lights no longer turned on, the water froze in the pipes, and then those pipes burst and flooded those homes again for the second time in 4 years. Not only did I have a chance to listen to, meet, and work with Ms. Scarborough, but I did with her daughter as well, because her home so badly flooded and damaged, she could no longer stay in it. And I know, unfortunately, that story is not exceptional in Houston, Texas right now. It is far often the rule, especially in the communities that for historically have been so underserved by our state government, present company excluded. I'm talking about our governor, our lieutenant governor, and our land commissioner. Imagine partnering with Miss Scarborough to make sure that she just has the resources to get along with her life, that her daughter can move back into that home that she helped to pay for through the hard work that she did day in, day out, living by the rules, following the law, paying the taxes, and now she's living on the couch in her mother's living room today. This is where we are right now, but it does not have to be our future or our fortune or our fate. Those in power today may represent the most extreme elements of Texas right now. I mean, this attack on women's rights, the inability to make your own decisions about your own body, a total abortion ban with no exception for rape or incest occurring in a state with the highest levels of maternal mortality in the developed world, 3 times as deadly for black women. I guarantee you, these extreme laws not only are not about life, they're about killing the women in our communities right now, and we must stop them by winning this election. The Congresswoman mentioned Uvalde, and she mentioned those awful shootings at Santa Fe High School. And she rightfully acknowledged Rhonda Hart, who through her persistence and leadership was able to get legislation passed in the United States Congress. But though we know those two mass shootings, and we know Sutherland Springs, and we know Midland, Odessa, and we know my hometown of El Paso, Texas, 5 of the deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history, and they've taken place just in the last 5 years in this state, I want to acknowledge something else that so many of you have shared with me. They say, you know what, that's right, Beto, and we got to do something about it. But please remember that every day, day in, day out in our communities, there are people dying 1, 2, 3 at a time through gun violence, so numbingly common that their names no longer make the newspaper. Their faces are no longer seen on the nightly news. It is as though, Beto, we've accepted this as the price for living or even dying in the state of Texas today, and that is not right either, and we must change it by winning this election. And the Congresswoman mentioned this attack on our democracy. And perhaps the scariest moment for many of us was wondering whether she and her colleagues would emerge from that Capitol on the 6th of January 2021 with their lives. And we thank God that they did. But we should in the same breath acknowledge that though that attempt to overturn a lawfully, legitimately decided election was thwarted, that insurrection is still rolling through our country, one state legislature at a time. And last year, it arrived in Texas. And despite the best efforts of Symphonia Thompson and Ron Reynolds, who literally left the floor of the State House to deprive that democracy-hating majority the quorum necessary to undermine our vote, they even fled to Washington, D.C. at the risk of their careers, even their freedom. They threatened to arrest them for standing up for the right to vote. Nonetheless, those in power were able to subvert our Constitution, to make this the toughest state in the nation in which to cast a ballot or in which to register to vote. Nearly 7 million of our fellow Texans did not vote in 2020, though they were eligible to. And it's not because they're lazy. It's not because they lack any love for this great democracy. It is literally because they have been drawn out. When our state has closed down 750 polling locations, and that's twice the number of the next closest state, and we are the fastest growing state in the union. And we discover that most of those closures have occurred in the fastest growing black and brown neighborhoods in the state of Texas. When we see that line outside of TSU on election day, which I predict that we will, 6 hours deep, let us just remember that there is no good reason that anyone, especially any American, any Texan, should have to endure that indignity in this state right now. It is because those in power fear those that they are supposed to serve and to represent. And they make it harder for them, either members of Congress, present company excluded, choosing their own voters through these gerrymanders that have pushed Sheila Jackson Lee out of a district that she has represented for years, or the ability to use your license to carry a firearm to prove who you are at the polling place, but you dare not use your student ID at the University of Houston to do the same. We've got an answer to that as well. Not only must we win this election, but we must make sure that this democracy truly works for each and every single one of us. And that means automatic voter registration, same-day voter registration, online voter registration, replacing gerrymandering with citizen-led redistricting commissions, making sure that you can take the day off to vote when we replace Confederate Heroes Day with Election Day as a state holiday in the state of Texas. And then think of the good work we do. Common sense, bipartisan ideas. What about raising the minimum wage to at least $15 an hour so you don't work 2 or 3 jobs? Having the backs of our public school educators, showing them the respect and treating them with the dignity that they deserve and earn. Those retired educators, a cost of living adjustment every single year going forward so they can enjoy their retirement. And then following a governor who tries to make us afraid of our own history, our own stories, our own neighbors, our own state, we make sure that not only do we stop these scare tactics and this demagoguery, but we also lift the pressure of a high-stakes test that in no way effectively measures that child's potential or the effort expended on her behalf when we cancel the STAR test in the state of Texas going forward. When I walked in, someone said, "Hey, Beto, I don't hear you talking about veterans enough in this state." Those women and those men willing to put their life on the line for all of us who swore an oath not to a president or to a political party or anyone in power, but to this Constitution and our democracy. Fewer than 1% have answered the call since the attacks of 9/11. And this country spares no expense to train them, to equip them, to send them off to war, to ask them to take the lives of others in our name and be willing to give their lives at the same moment. And yet when they return, somehow the resources are found wanting in this beautiful, wealthy state, 9th largest economy on the planet. Tonight, there will be veterans sleeping on the side of the road, on a park bench, underneath bridges. In this state that does not lack for resources or wealth, the lines to get into the VA in some parts of Texas stretch not hours or days, but months or years. I propose this, that we pay any price, that we bear any burden to ensure there's a roof over the head of every single veteran, connect them with the care that could literally save their lives, make sure this land office has the resources they need to support those veterans, and those who come back and say, "Listen, I did get into the VA, but they were all too quick to prescribe me an opioid, to which I may become addicted and from which I may die. And Beto, there's something else, and it works better than that. It relieves my symptoms. It restores my appetite. It allows me to sleep at night, but to use it in Texas is to be a criminal in the eyes of the law." So I propose two things. One, we legalize marijuana in the state of Texas, get with the program that's going on in the rest of the country. And then given the fact that Texans of all races and ethnicities and backgrounds use marijuana at the same rate, but disproportionately black and brown Texans are stopped, frisked, arrested, incarcerated, upon release, have to put that conviction down on every employment application form, every small business loan that they want to take out, narrowing and constraining their options. We must also expunge the arrest records for anyone who has served time for possession of marijuana in the state of Texas. Lastly, and this is something that I've heard the Congresswoman not just talk about, but fight for every breathing day of her life. And that is simply this, and find me a more Texas value than this one, that we all be healthy enough and well enough to live to our full potential. Healthy enough to finish that education, or to report to work, or to start a small business, to open up job opportunities for others, to run for office, to pastor to your congregation, to raise your family, just to be on this planet and do what you are placed here to perform in the first place. Not only are we the least insured state in America, where the largest provider of mental health care services today is the county jail system, it is the most immoral, and I will tell you, the most expensive way to fail one another today. This state, because of the people here and our forefathers and foremothers, literally invented Medicaid in 1965 when Lyndon Baines Johnson signed that into law. Every one of our border states has taken the deal, from Oklahoma to Louisiana, from Arkansas to New Mexico, 3 with Republican governors. What I will do, working with the Congresswoman, is to bring back $10 billion of your federal income taxes to Texas every year, to connect more people with care, to ensure that we're healthy and well enough to fulfill our promise as a people and as a state. And when you think about that agenda, find me the Republican, or the Democrat, or the independent, or the Texan who's going to argue the other side of this deal. We're talking about world-class schools, the ability to see a doctor, the best jobs in America being created right here in Texas, and every woman's right to make her own decisions about her own body, her own future, and her own health care. This is a Texas agenda. And I just want you to know this, and I'll wrap up. This can seem daunting, given the challenges that we face. I think about Miss Scarborough, who's been waiting 5 years and counting to get some help to rebuild her home that flooded twice through no fault of her own. And this woman has paid taxes every working day of her life, and they have yet to come back to her at her moment of need. And she may be forgiven for wondering, is it even worth voting right now? Will it ever change for me? Or for my daughter who's sleeping on my couch right now because her home is too damaged to live in today. You may wonder, given these attacks on our democracy that have effectively and functionally disenfranchised and drawn so many of our fellow Texans out, whether we can ever overcome or prevail. Well, let me close with this story that I began to share with the Congresswoman today. 99 years ago, Ms. T and Chairman Reynolds' predecessors passed a bill known as the White Primary Law. And simply put, it meant if you were black, you could not vote in the state of Texas. And there were no euphemisms involved. It wasn't how many bubbles of soap are in this bar. It literally said in black and white in state statute, if you're black, you cannot vote. In El Paso, Texas, Dr. Lawrence Nixon, a black physician, founded the first chapter of the NAACP in our state. Nonetheless, pays his poll tax in 1924, takes it to polling station number 5 on Texas Avenue, waits in line, presents it at the front. The judges who know him by sight and by name, because he's never missed an election, say, Dr. Nixon, you know we can't let you vote. And he says, I know you can't, but I've got to try. And he tries over the next 21 years, taking his case all the way to the Supreme Court, not once, but twice, and then working with Lonnie Smith, another black physician, this time from the 5th Ward right here in Houston. They win the Smith versus Allwright decision in 1944 that finally begins to integrate our elections. But it's only a beginning. And this state works together to prevail upon the first Texas president, Lyndon Baines Johnson, who in 1964, meeting with Dr. King and future Ambassador Young, when they asked him to pass the Voting Rights Act, he says, you know what? We just did the Civil Rights Act, and that was too big a hill to climb to begin with. There's no way that I have the power for this one. And so Dr. King, upon leaving the Oval Office, turns to Ambassador Young and says, we got to get this president some power. And over the months that followed, people just like us in rooms just like these committed themselves to the work ahead, culminating on the 7th of March, 1965, when John Lewis, 24 years old, begins a march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, simply asking for the right to vote, to be treated as a human being and a full citizen in this very country. And what he did so shocked the conscience of this country that within 8 days, the president was able to convene a joint session of Congress, every senator, every House member, and bring them together and say this: as it was in Lexington, in Concord, at the foundation of this country, as it was in 1865 in that courthouse in Appomattox, so it is today in 1965 that our fellow Americans are willing to risk their lives to make sure that this democracy works for each and every single one of us. They passed that bill. 10 years later, Barbara Jordan, the first African-American woman elected from the South to the United States Congress, reauthorizes that bill in 1975 to expand it even further. And I just want to tell you this. At this moment of maximum peril for our democracy, you know who sits in Barbara Jordan's seat in the United States Congress? It is Sheila Jackson Lee, who helped to author the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act that is going to restore this democracy so badly damaged today. My point, ladies and gentlemen, is this. Though the greatest attacks against our people, the right to vote, this very democracy, have come right here in Texas. And let's not be naive about it. Let's not be naive about it. I also want you to know that the answer to it does not come from outside of the state, whether that's the president, the attorney general, or the United States Supreme Court. It is all of us doing all we can with what we have, where we are right now. Just like Lonnie Smith, just like Dr. Lawrence Nixon, just like John Lewis, LBJ, Barbara Jordan, and Sheila Jackson Lee. We have inherited their service, their sacrifice, and their struggle. What we do with this inheritance will determine our future and define us in the eyes of history forever going forward. Because as much as I just have looked to the past to seek sources of optimism and hope and inspiration, I also think about the people of the future who are watching us now from ahead, counting on us to come through at this defining moment of truth. And we cannot be found wanting. So let me hear it from you. Are you willing to do what it takes to make sure that we win this election and come through for Texas, for every single one of us who are counting on us right now at this moment? Let us be about it. I am so glad you came out. Looking forward to hearing what's on your mind. And a quick reminder, every one of our volunteers in a yellow reflective vest is here to sign you up, to take on shifts, to knock on doors, to meet the very people who are the targets of suppression and intimidation in Texas. And won't it be some mighty poetic political justice if those drawn out become the margin of victory when we win this on election night, November 8th, okay? You all with me? All right, Miss Cano right here, my colleague, has got the microphone. If you raise a hand, she'll bring it to you, and we'll get as many voices into the conversation as we can.
Here's our
Thank
first
you,
question. Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
I'm Cecilia Fontenot. I'm one of those forgotten neighborhoods. As Black Houstonians, we demand that our issues be heard, and a resolution is definitely needed. As governor, how will you handle the funds that are not being distributed equally in the poor communities? The money goes to people like Baker Ripley, Catholic Charities, and they distribute the funds the way that they want to. My solution is put people on their committees from each poor neighborhood.
Like that.
Thank you.
Yes. Let me just say that I like your solution. Much as Fred Woods did, you came to the conversation with a solution to the problem that you raised. Let's make sure at that table where these decisions are made, including the disbursement of the money that the Congresswoman has helped to appropriate to the state of Texas, that those most impacted have a voice and a say and literally a seat. So let me just tell you this. As governor, working with our land commissioner, Jay Clayburgh, whose GLO office will have the authority to distribute and disperse those funds, we have seen you, we have heard you, we know your name. Cynthia's going to get your phone number and give you mine, and I have Jay's, and so I'll give you his as well. And we're going to make sure that we use the Congresswoman's word again of partnership. It is partnering with elected leaders like Rodney Ellis, the commissioner, who just joined us right here. Let's have a hand for him, one of the great leaders in this community. And it is leaders such as yourself. You do not have to hold a position of public trust or a high office for us to want to be able to partner with you. So the answer to your very direct question is yes. And Cynthia, I want to make sure that we get contact information traded so that you can hold me accountable for the commitment that I make today. Thank you for being here. And she said, I will. I love that. I count on it.
Here's our next question.
Beto, over the last several years, Governor Abbott has attacked the LGBTQ community. And a few days ago, a federal judge ruled that Texas can discriminate against LGBTQ members. As governor, how will you protect the LGBTQ community members?
Thanks for asking this question. You go back to that great speech that LBJ gave, inspired by John Lewis, and he was talking about Lexington and Concord and Appomattox and then Selma, and all of those battles, an effort to make sure that this foundational premise that we are all created equally is actually honored in the law, that we are all served the same despite the differences between us. In Texas, we couldn't be further from the truth, especially on the issues that you just raised right now. I'll give you all some examples. Though none of us thinks it's okay, it is perfectly legal to fire someone or refuse to hire them in this state if they're gay. Though none of us are okay with it, though we have 32,000 kids in the worst run foster care program in America in Child Protective Services, if you live in a same-sex household, you can be denied the ability to adopt one of those children who needs that loving home, the very loving home that you are providing for them right now. And what we know, following the Dobbs decision that overturned Roe versus Wade, is that Justice Clarence Thomas has warned us that next is the right to contraception, same-sex intimacy, which means reviving the sodomy laws of the state of Texas, and even marriage equality. A reminder that no victory is final, and none of these fights will ever be over. And so acknowledging that, understanding that as governor, we're going to make sure that we use the veto to stop the bad ideas that might be coming through. But even more importantly, that we overturn bad decisions that are already on the books right now. All we're asking for, all I hear you saying, is that you just want to be treated the same as anybody else in this state. And as governor, you have my commitment to get that done. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you.
To your right, in the middle, a little bit over to your left, back here. All right.
Right, and then Ms. Kondo, I want to give Commissioner Ellis a little bit of time to speak. So when you're at your last question, and I'm putting him on the spot, we're going to invite him up to close us out.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Sounds good. And I'm going to make my way to as many hands as I can.
I would like to thank you for your time. I'm a Black veteran, and I believe that Houston is the picture of Black success, professionalism, and Southern Black life. I think that as governor, it would be important for you to have a plan to make sure that Houston, and Texas in particular, is the ground zero for Black policy moving us into a better future. That being said, I know there are plenty of Black voters who are apathetic because they might be conservatives who say that Democrats don't see them as anything other than a victim. Or there's Democrats who are disillusioned, who feel that January 6th can happen in their community, and there's not a sense of urgency to stop it from happening, that their voting rights are being stripped and there's not a sense of urgency. So what is your policy plans that are gonna put Texas as that ground zero that I was describing?
I love this question, and as I have with others, I want to invite you to be part of that solution. If you want to be that leadership right here at the epicenter of this extraordinary opportunity that you're talking about, then I want you on this team. You mentioned this reliance on a narrative of victimhood that sometimes Democrats, present company excluded, will overly rely on. Let me just tell you about the aspiration and ambition that I've heard and frankly that I've seen and been absolutely blown away by in Houston. When I meet with entrepreneurs and small business leaders and nonprofit organizers in our communities throughout the state, throughout the community of Houston, I see an example for the rest of the state of Texas. And when I talk about changes to ensure that people are treated fairly, it just means that I want more success in a community that already has so much of it. I'll give you an example. We recently met with Black entrepreneurs in Texas, and specifically we did it in Houston. And we heard from those who have a hard time getting access to capital, that first small business loan that allows you to invest in that equipment or lease that building or hire those first few employees. And it made me think about something. When I was first starting out as an entrepreneur in El Paso back in the late 90s, I went to the bank. I had this idea for a technology business that I wanted to start in El Paso. I could not get a loan, in part because maybe I couldn't explain the idea very well, and in part because I had no collateral of my own. And so I remember going back to my parents and saying, you know, I've tried every one of these banks, I cannot get a loan, I don't know what to do. My dad said, I know what to do. And he went down to the bank and he put our home, which by that point he and my mom had owned. They paid off those 20 or 20 plus years. And he used that home as collateral to secure a loan, and then turned around and extended that loan to me. And I started the business and I hired people, and we got really lucky and the business took off and we had success. When I look at the rate of home ownership in the state of Texas, and particularly in Houston, African Americans own a fraction of the homes per capita that Anglo Americans own in the city of Houston. And not only does that mean that as people are paying rent, they're not building equity in what they should be able to own, they're then not able to leverage it to do other things, or even just to pass that down generationally to the next child, the daughter, the granddaughter, the great-granddaughter, who can use that to have a better start over the course of their life. So what can we do to work on this together? What if we partnered with, to use that word again, more community lending institutions to make sure that this capital gets deployed to where it's going to do the most good? What if we look at home ownership as a real opportunity, not just to address homelessness that we see far too often in communities like Houston, but also to build up equity and wealth that can be leveraged for more job opportunities in this community. We could go on, but just looking at that one aspirational opportunity, I am so excited about what we can get started in January of 2023, and I hope that you'll join me as a partner from this end of it, okay? Thank you for coming out.
Bishop Dixon.
Thank you. Let's give our next governor a big hand. Everybody's been acknowledged our illustrious Congresswoman who's next to the Congresswoman for the 18th. She's the Congresswoman for all of this area and the nation. I go all over the country and they say what an amazing Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee is. Please not treat the uncommon like it's common. Give her a hand. Please don't do that. Our County Commissioner Rodney Ellis is a freedom fighter with, listen y'all, I need y'all to understand all those disparity studies that have been done. This man put up $650,000 of his budget to get that done so blacks and other minorities contracts. Give him a hand. Don't treat the uncommon like it's what? Come on, say, don't treat the uncommon like it's common. When you look at Chairman Ron Reynolds and our city councilwoman, they have their sleeves rolled up. Please don't treat the what? Uncommon. How many of y'all go to church anyway? Okay, talk back to me. Don't treat the what? Uncommon like it's common. When you get leaders like these who are going against the grain to bring changes to our community, our city, you get a representative like the Dean, Miss T. Don't treat the what? Gold is gold even if it's sitting next to you. And one of the issues we have as a community, y'all, is familiarity breeds contempt. We think that because people care enough to be close enough to us, they cannot be important and significant. But I need you to understand, I'm not an elected official. Every position I have is, I don't get no pay for it, right? I mean, whatever those are. But my point is this, I'm around them enough to see the fight that they go through to make sure we don't get left out. And we end up getting mad at the wrong people. And when we come home, when they come home to their communities, they see frowns as opposed to people saying, we're proud of your service. Because they come home bloody, they come home beat down, they come home worn out, because they're fighting against this oppressive system 365 days a year, all times of day and night. They don't sleep. And then when they come back to us, they ought to be rejuvenated. Because it's like a boxer who's been in the ring fighting on behalf of others, but when you come back to your corner is looking at you sideways. And I'm saying that when you got a lady like a Beto O'Rourke, who will come to our community time and give you his phone number. Don't treat the what? Uncommon like it's common. Their hearts are in the right place. Their heads are in the right place. But it's an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle. And unless we change the people who are in office, we won't be able to get done the kind of things that you really need. Here's my ask when I go to my city. Please don't make it hard for them to win our support. What alternative do you have? What's the alternative? More voter suppression? What's the alternative? More issues with critical race theory? What's the alternative? More disenfranchisement for the LGBTQ community? What's the alternative? More denial of Medicaid funding that should have been in our hospitals, in our community. What's the alternative? Please not let's come to these rallies like we have better choices. Tell somebody we don't have better choices.
Let's go with the best we've got. But the good news is the best we've got is the best we need. Oh, I need you to get fired up today. The best we have is the best we need. The best we've got is the best we need. The best we've got is the best we need. The best we've got is the best we need. How many of y'all go to church one last time? No, don't play with me. If you go to church, lift your hand. Come on, say, as for me and my house, we vote. Say it again, as for me and my house, we vote. Say it loud, as for me and my house, we vote. Now grab your neighbor's hand like you do in church and tell them, as for me and my house, we vote. And we're voting for Beto O'Rourke, the next governor of the state of Texas. God bless you. God bless Texas. We praying for you.
I'm Rodney Ellis. Do I need to say any more? You know what you just witnessed? You think about it. I saw Beto O'Rourke stand up here and give a keynote address. No teleprompter, Symphonia Thompson, no notes, Sheila Jackson Lee, Jay Kleberg, nothing. It was from the heart. Beto, I want to thank you, not just for running this time. Ron Reynolds, I want to thank him for running 4 years ago. I mean, make no mistake about it. We never had it so good in Harris County until the Democrats got back in power. You know, I was at the Tribune Festival, and the old regime said they were upset because I made the comment. When I got to Commissioner's Court, they were running this place like a plantation. And it wasn't a very well-run plantation. They took us for granted. They just made up numbers. And we were just so happy that every once in a while they'd call our name, Tarsha Jackson. We act like we were getting something. We were getting nothing. And then we came to power. Democrats took over this county. But let me tell you, no disrespect to the great candidates that we had running. Black Girl Magic, Lena Hidalgo, 27 years old, Adrian Garcia, we knew it. We took over this county because Beto O'Rourke was running for the United States Senate. We came within a stone's throw of getting control of the House. We never made so many gains in this state since long time ago. For one reason, Beto O'Rourke ran for the United States Senate. Beto came in to see me, Sheila. I got to know him well in that campaign. He came in and asked, well, do you think I ought to run for governor? You know, I said, Beto, what the hell do I, sorry, Bishop. What do I know? I told him, I said, hey, man, when he told me he was running, he was going to all of the counties, going to these places a Democrat hadn't been to in 20 years for fear of getting run out of it. And I said, well, when you get through going to all them counties and driving itself, I said, okay, won't you write a book? And then at the last minute, go back and run for your congressional seat. And he sat there kind of smiling. And then I thought about it. I said, Beto, how do I know? If you followed my advice, you wouldn't have run for the United States Senate. With another 2% of the vote, you would be vice president of the United States of America right now. Because if Texas goes just purple, it matters in terms of the national election. So I said, Beto, I don't know if you'll win. I'm going to use, I thought about it. I knew he was going to ask me that question. I thought about the fact, I saw that picture when Jesse Jackson ran in '84. You looked up, saw Jesse reaching down to a good-looking little white kid. Beto O'Rourke was that kid. And I said, Beto, I'm going to give you the line Jesse used to use back then. If you run, you might lose. If you don't run, we lose. So I said, I think you got a shot at it. Everybody thought that the gun comment, in hindsight, it was logical. He's talking about weapons of mass destruction. And they figured from that comment on the presidential trail it would kill him. I'm telling you, the boy has something special. He got that Robert Kennedy appeal of something you, hey, Bishop, I know I don't go to church all the time, but I'm going to tell you, Beto, God's looked out for you. It's something special about him. And think about it. Bishop Livingston, thank you for being here. Now, I don't want to get up here and I don't want to get to preaching too much, but it's something special. And then those children being massacred in Uvalde. So many of them. And Beto, God was looking out for you to turn that around, and now people realize something's wrong in a state like this when they're more worried about banning books than banning the guns. Let's think about it. It's a unique quality. We can win this race. Who in this room really thought, just tell the truth, who really thought in 1990 Ann Richards was going to become governor? Put your hand up, don't lie. It's Sunday. You the only one because you're so young. It was a special moment in the history of this state. We're the third minority state in the country. Obama's home state, Hawaii, was the first, by the way. Second one was California. Third one was Texas. When he got out there and ran, we should have hit it before Georgia or Florida. It was Beto O'Rourke that showed us the power we do have. You know, ours is a diverse tent. That's a tough tent. You got me in our family, you got everybody. You got the blacks, you got the browns, you got GLBT, you got the South Asian community, you got women, you got men. It's tough in a diverse family to make it work because it's so easy to pit us against one another. We got to be careful with that. You know, Miss T, back in your generation when y'all got started, old Ben Reyes and Mickey Leland, they'd use that Billy Preston line. The blacks are always worried about what the Hispanics got. Hispanics worried about what the blacks got. And then the people who got it all grinning. And then old Mickey would say, you know what Billy Preston would say? Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. We got to vote. And Bishop, you get it right. It's not enough. Everybody in this room is converted. You got it. Most people in your house converted, or put them out. You got to work on your neighbors. What we got to do is go out and get our folks to come out. They get it. They see through the smoke screen. The way they win is when they suppress our enthusiasm. They changed the rules and all the stuff we did in Harris County. Went from being the envy of the nation, drive-through voting, vote all night. They passed a law to stop it. Stoves to the post. Pass a law to stop it. Don't you let them take this state back. And it starts with the top of the ticket with Beto O'Rourke. But it doesn't stop there. It starts there. They bank on you or your neighbors to go vote and get tired. And then decide you're not going to go to the bottom. Then we lose our judgeships. We lose the county. It's a big county. Bigger than all those states he made reference to. More people in Harris County than every bordering state. Only place bigger would be the country to the south. More people in Texas than the whole state of Louisiana. Think about that. 4.8 million people. This county matters. And that's why I'm so glad he's back here. And I'm going to close on this. You and I working together. We have fought so hard. We've waited so long. And we have suffered so much. Don't let this place go back to the way it used to be. Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke for governor of the state of Texas, from the top of that ticket all the way to the bottom. Now, Pastor, hey, pardon me, forgive me, damn it, get after it. Thank you.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much, Commissioner Ellis. Thank you for everybody for coming out. We are going to stay back here with the Texas flag. If you'd like to stay and take a picture and say hello, come on over and join us. We're going this way. Yes, ma'am. And you can talk to